It is a great honor to introduce our keynote speaker for the day, Dr. Professor Choodamani Nandagopal, art historian, UNESCO Fellow, Tagore National Fellow, Dean retired, School of Humanities and Social Sciences, Jain University, Bangalore. Dr. Choodamani has contributed to the cultural analysis, tangible and intangible cultural heritage, comparative analysis of Ramappa temple and architecture, and established cultural and human values in writing the dossier for UNESCO World Heritage recognition. She has authored a well-researched and illustrated volume on Ramappa temple, which was given the UNESCO World Heritage tag. Professor Choodamani Nandagopal is an internationally reputed art historian, author, and academician with a master's in sociology, a master's in history and archaeology, and a PhD in history and archaeology from Mysore University. She was a first UK visiting Nehru Fellow at the Victoria and Albert Museum, London, UNESCO Fellow in Art History, and Tagore Senior National Fellow at National Museum, Delhi, 2019 to 2021. She served earlier as academic head at Chitrakala Parikshat and set up the Department of Art History at Bangalore University. She was the academic head of IGNCA Bangalore, a professor in cultural studies at Manipal University, and retired as Dean School of Humanities and Social Sciences, Jain University, Bangalore. She is an acclaimed academician, a visiting professor in several Indian and overseas universities, and a consultant to museums. She has guided 20 PhDs and 20 Masters of Philosophy. She has published 25 books of national importance like Arts and Crafts of Indus Civilization, 3 volumes Temple Treasures, Enactment of Rituals in Temple Tradition, Art of Image Making, Dance and Music in Temple Architecture, Rudreshwara Ramappa Temple, the crest jewel of Kakatiya heritage, to name a few. Recently, she received the prestigious Dana Chintamani Atimabe Lifetime Achievement Award from the Government of Karnataka for her contributions to the field of art, history, and culture. Recipient of the Rukmani Arundale Award from Attendance, Chanakya Award from the Public Relation Council of India, Shastra Kaustubh title from the renowned Ananya Institute, Bangalore in November 2021. She is the secretary of the S.R. Rao Memorial Foundation. Dr. Choodamani has served Indian Art History Congress in different capacities since its inception and is presently the Vice President of the Indian Art History Congress. I welcome Dr. Choodamani to deliver the keynote address.
Om Gurubhyo Namaha. Professor Raghavendra Tanwar, Chairman, Indian Council of Historical Research, Dr. Mrs. Tanwar, Dr. Nandita Krishna, Director of C.P. Ramaswamy IR Foundation, Dr. Shinde, Dr. Sharma, and Dr. Satyamurthy ji, and distinguished invitees and delegates, and the energetic team of C.P. Ramaswamy IR Foundation. C.P. Ramaswamy IR Foundation continues to organize well-conceived and conceptualized conferences and seminars worthy and befitting to the renowned personality of Sri Ramaswamy IR. Obviously, highly focused topics are always selected that provide scope for well-researched papers, and it is a delightful experience for the scholars to present their findings at the academic conferences conducted through this foundation. And in the same way, the seminar on the subject like Arts of Indus Civilization is rare and unique. I am immensely happy to present before the august assembly of learned members my keynote address on the topic of seminar Art in the Indus Valley and I would like to dedicate this presentation to Dr. S.R. Rao, the renowned archaeologist, a towering figure in the study of Indus Valley civilization and the city of Dwarka underwater, that is marine archaeology. I do not claim myself as the archaeologist on the study of Indus Valley civilization, nor was I part of any excavation team. I was fortunate enough to associate with Dr. Rao during fag end of his service as the superintending archaeologist, Bangalore Circle. After his retirement, he was much busier with the projects like discovery of Dwarka underwater and land and on land, began to set up an alphabetical gallery at Tirupati Museum, spent more time on deciphering the Indus script, writing books and delivering lectures in India and overseas. In 2005, he gave a valuable suggestion to me that there is no independent book on arts and crafts of Indus civilization. There is a need for such a volume because of the availability of material, and also they should be subjected to art historical analysis. So I accepted the proposal to work under his guidance. As a result, a book was published by Aryan International. A book was published by Aryan International, Delhi in 2006 and titled as Arts and Crafts of Indus Civilization, with an introduction by Dr. S.R. Rao. The credit of this publication entirely goes to him for mentoring me in this field. With my humble pranams to all senior archaeologists and who are engaged even today working on Indus civilization or Sindhu Saraswati civilization, who have excavated the highly developed urban civilization in the undivided India and later. I would mainly concentrate on the salient features of and also the aesthetic elements in the arts of Indus Valley civilization. I may not go to all the town planning and other aspects of Indus civilization here. But the book carries an introduction by S.R. Rao, which covers all these aspects, entire aspects of Indus civilization. So the name Indus civilization was given by excavators to a dozen sites in the Indus Valley excavated by Sir John Marshall, Ernest Mackay and Madho Swarup Vats between 1921 and 1930. The picture then produced was one of the highly developed Bronze Age urban civilization appearing suddenly on the scene around 2500 BC and disappearing with equal suddenness in 1500 BC, with hardly any trace of its origin or survival. The cause for its destruction was assumed to be invasion of Aryan tribes from outside India. Sir Wheeler excavated Harappa in 1942. Ernest Mackay excavated a part of Mohenjo-daro from 1927 to 31. Mr. Wheeler exposed the granary at Mohenjo-daro in 1950. Then it was termed as Indus Valley Civilization. Harappa and Mohenjo-daro were recognized as prominent Indus sites of undivided India. As a sequel to the political bifurcation of Indian subcontinent in 1947, there was no site of Indus civilization left within the present borders of India, which became a challenge to our archaeologists. The Archaeological Survey of India, under a planned exploration program, started surveying the region east and south of Indus Valley. A. Ghosh, then Director General ASI, discovered several sites in Bikaner division of Rajasthan and named them as sites of Soti culture, which is now identified as pre-Harappa culture. In 1953-54, S.R. Rao of ASI excavated Rangpur in Saurashtra and identified it as a Harappan settlement. The most significant contribution of this excavation is that the declining phases of Harappa culture and its gradual transformation into a late Harappa and post-Harappa culture came to light, thereby disproving the earlier theory of the sudden disappearance of Indus civilization. So this fact further confirmed by Rao's discovery and excavation of the now famous mature Harappan port town of Lothal and the head of the Gulf of Cambay. So with this short introduction, I would like to go to the presentation and then wherever the discussions are needed, we can go ahead with that. Can you switch off this light, please? This halogen. Yeah, I think now much better, or even these lights can be one of this light. This light, so that you can see very clearly. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. So this is how the chronological sequencing of Indus civilization is followed, and these dates based on Ajit Prasad table. So it is recognized as the early or pre-Harappa between 300 to 2900 BCE. Then mature Harappa 900 to 1900 BCE, and late Harappa 1900 to 1500 BCE. So just a introduction to Indus Valley sites excavated, as I mentioned earlier, and followed with Bikaner and then Rangpur, then Lothal, Kalibangan, Dholavira by R.S. Bist, and Daimabad excavated by the other two great archaeologists. So like this, more or less of that particular phase of excavation was happening up to 1968, and now we have more and more sites are discovered, like Rakigadi is one of the major discovery, and people are looking forward for the Rakigadi excavation and the excavated material and the interpretation of Rakigadi now. So this is one of the artifacts displayed at Harappan Gallery at National Museum, New Delhi. When I was working on this book, Dr. R.D. Chaudhary was the Director General of National Museum, and Dr. D.P. Sharma was working on this Harappan Gallery. He is with us. So I have seen him working with every artifact and placing them and creating this Harappan Gallery. So this is how one part you can see the animals, and you can also see the size of the animals, each one. They are not very big like we have in Egypt, but they are all very small one. And now what are the features, main features of art in Indus Valley? So I am taking up some of the aspects related to art and aesthetics. In the book I have written a chapter on aesthetic approach to Indus Valley art. So that is what which has created an insight to look into the details of the artifacts of Indus Valley. So art reflects the stages of refinement in the society. All of us know what is the function of the art in society. As an art historian teaching art history for more than 30 years and teaching philosophy of art to art students, I feel that art is the end product of society. So it comes out with all the experiences and development that has taken place in society. And then it is the mirror, art is the mirror of the society. So the way of life is best expressed through art. That is why, we always, if we go to any country, we think to go to museum to see the art of those, and it expresses through the fine refinement of the people, their taste and their aesthetic, sensibilities. These are the major elements that we find through art. And all of us seniors must be knowing a book by Radha Kamal Mukherjee, who has written the functions, social functions of Indian art. It is even today, it's a wonderful book which gives the entire concept of social aspects of art. Many times we don't think about it, but this book reflects the social function of Indian art. So it also shows the evolution and development of social process while creating these art forms. From the perspectives of civilization, we have three stages recognized in development of form and shapes. Whenever we look into any art, the first thing comes to our mind is the form. Every art has its own, analogy or interpretation of understanding the form, whether it is music, dance, painting, sculpture, theater, everywhere form plays an important role. So here three stages are recognized. One is discovery of functional form. Secondly, refinement of functional form to efficiency. It's not only just creating form, but reaching to final stage, summit, that is the efficiency of its social function as well as its appearance and integrated elements connected to it. And then refinement of functional form in the direction of free and symbolic form. It doesn't stop there. It will go to the layers and layers of, maybe stories, maybe related to development of that form, finally come to the symbolic form, which becomes more interesting, more interpreting. That is where Indian art, whether it is iconography, the symbolism is the soul of all the art forms that we interpret in India. So the analysis of all these utilitarian objects, one interesting thing is whatever we see in except the sculpture, some of the sculptures, most of the things are utilitarian art forms in Indus Valley, and they have the great relevance to the reconstruction of the human past. Just now we heard chairman speaking about how the history helps in Kashmir, the reconstruction of the human past. We should not take Kashmir just 1000 years or 2000 years. So it is our responsibility to reconstruct and come to this kind of reconstruction. So when observed art objects excavated from Indus sites can be categorized under all these three stages. So those three stages are common to all art forms, all cultures. But when it comes to the Indus civilization, pottery is the most utilitarian, all of us know. In their treatment shown the refinement. From one stage to another, one side to another, you see the refinement even presenting a pottery. We will see in some of the slides, you will understand what I am talking about. And in development of maximum efficiency, the best things you come across in the Indus Valley development. And the creative design, typical postures of animals, birds drawn on pottery indicate direction of free symbolic form. See, freedom of form, who can understand this? It's only the great artists. They understand the freedom of form and they create that freedom of form in their works. So Indus artists were of that caliber. They understood the freedom of form and symbolic form. So they recognize the remarkable mastery of technical skill. Unless you are very good in your practical work, you cannot express this kind of symbolic form and free form. So they were experts even in the technical skill. This process accounts for all variations of style in the history of representational art. So if we see from Indus to contemporary, because art doesn't stop at the contemporary period, it is still a great contribution from India, from the contemporary artists of India. So it continues. We have so many women artists of India who are contributing even today. So that means to say art continues always, and it is the representation of the society that we are having and living. So in the context of time and space, whenever we study art, we think about time and space. Excavation began in pre-canonical phase. In Indus civilization, still that the iconographic canons or the texts that have been written on architecture, all those canons were not applied at that time. They were free from the canonical phase. Indus art and creativity expounded on the basis of functionality. They always kept in their mind what is the function of the particular thing what they produce. So functionality was always in their mind. It gives a feeling, a greater demand for art objects within the Indus area and also outside. When you see so many art objects, I don't know, Dr. D.P. Sharma had seen so many objects before placing them into Harappan gallery. Still we don't know how many are there in the crypt, in the museum. That I am talking about one museum. Like that, how many museums are there? In Pakistan, in India, even Kashmir must be having so much of Indus material. So all this, they are outside, there was a demand, otherwise why did they produce? If there is no demand, they would not have produced so many pieces. So we have, that means to say there was a demand. So what are the sources for these artists? What are the sources and references of artistic expressions for Indus artists? Whether the Indus people had referred to the art of their predecessors, whether the art existed before Indus period, where did they borrow the techniques and treatment of figurative forms? Yeah. So the sources for the Indus artists came from the imagery of Paleolithic, Neolithic expressions, animal and human line drawings from rock art phase. So this was the source for Indus, this pre-Indus period. So animal figures, we get many animal figures, most representative in nature. The Indus artists identified them with greater harmony. Harmony in relation to society, harmony in relation to use, harmony in relation to understand the animal psychology or behavior. So such harmony was there when we look at the pieces coming as the animals. So skill of graffiti show the strength of engraving, superimposition of figures. So the graffiti, we see that even in caves, much earlier we find the graffiti. India is known for that. But Indus artists were very sure of creating such graffiti. And superimpositions also. Today we talk about superimposition in our digital media, but they were experts in superimposition. So Indus artists introduced unlimited thematic representation. This is another feature. How many types, even when I was asked to survey and look at the, art material in National Museum or Lothal or whatever Dr. Rao had the photographs collection, how many pieces, how many themes were there? So I was so confused and I was really, wonderstruck how they can create such themes. So such themes are unlimited and established a plethora of interesting forms, later transformed into interesting subject for Indian fables. The way they created has inspired our people later to create the fables, many fables, myths and legends. So for our sources, we can definitely, surely depend on Indus material to create these stories. So phases of evolution of artifacts, you have progressive refinement of shape, increasing skill in handling the material. They had such increasing the stage by stage. That is the evolution what we see. And designing and polishing. When you look at some of the pottery, you feel that it has just glazed. No such freshness you can see. So that means to say they were very good in the having that skill. And production of artifacts of elegance and ageless. When you look at Indus Valley art material, you feel that it is contemporary. So contemporary in their form, figure, treatment. So it is like ageless. So practical tools were produced during the mature Harappan phase. So finally what we see is touch of elegance. So coming to form and style. So when we think of from the art historical perspective, the style, whenever we as art historians write on anything, we are very much bothered about the stylistic features and stylistic analysis, where to place them. So that gives us an extra eye to think about the style. So Indus artifacts have naturalistic and idealistic process. This is very interesting. They are not like medieval period, more of something depending on the text and all those things. They were very naturalistic and idealistic. The forms on the artifacts, animal motifs, free figures on the pottery, seal were the derivations of naturalistic form. When you see those artifacts, you will understand all these what I am talking. And while creating the pots, dishes and jars, the shapes and the treatment functional than idealistic. They had in their mind it is more of functional than creating some kind of idealistic thing. I always give an example to my art students. Suppose you want to put a door handle, you have to design in such a way it should be comfortable for you to open and close. For that you have to select some kind of form which will be cordial for that function. Instead, you love Nataraja so much. So put a Nataraja there. What happens? Nataraja is great form. Great form, it has philosophy. We all know that. But not suitable for a door frame. So door frame has to be a door frame model. So like that, so it is form plays an important role in creating the material. So the element of style in art is a dynamic phenomena. All of us know that. Style doesn't stop at one level. It's a process. It goes on and on. Suddenly changes to another style. So what are the reasons? This is how we all work. So concerned with period, cultural development, patronage, aesthetic taste and temperament. All these are connected when we study the art of Indus civilization. So stylization is evident in Indus art. While depicting the animal figures, unicorn, stag, crow, pipal leaf, also mother goddess, figurines and female figures. Stylistic features also continue in Harappan pottery and seals. What you see there is in the mature Harappan phase, there is an elaborate decoration. I am giving here some examples where you find the elaborate decorations like unicorn or Pashupati figure on the seals, or 3 rows of necklaces on the female terracotta figures. Production of toys with wheels, when they put on the wheels, floral motifs on the pottery, particular ornamentation on the images like trefoil motif you see on the priest, drapery. Then bearded representation of humans, or sometimes grotesque features also. And size and shapes of beads. It's one of my chapter on this book is on the lapidary, on the beads, giving all elaborate and information. I am not covering that here today. It's only art I am covering. So this one is a long a bead of 6 inches. There may be a tiny needlehead beads also. That is the variation they had in that. And treatment of space on the pottery and seals. See, for an artist, space is so important. How he handles the space, treat the space with his form, theme and so many things. So in that, you see that the pottery of different shapes are taken and the space is treated very carefully by the Indus artists. So all this indicate the conventionalized stage, and this has been followed widely in most parts of Indus civilization. It doesn't stop only at Harappa or Mohenjo-daro. It comes to Lothal, it comes to Dholavira also. So Indus art, what is the content and the material for them? What are the material they were comfortable to create art objects? See, in all art forms, the studies of art, perception and creation are the 2 things that guide us to study the art. Significant and spectacular achievements of Indus culture is the use and standardization of the baked clay. Baked clay is terracotta. What we call it as baked clay is nothing but terracotta, which is very popular in the museums and all that. So the terracotta medium for art, artifacts or utilitarian objects always remained ageless. Stella Kramarisch calls it as terracotta medium as ageless. So even today, for the fine art student, visual art student, in the first year they study modeling by using terracotta as the medium. They will be creating so many forms in terracotta even today. So that means to say terracotta is the ageless, you find always. So seals are evidence of animal worship. This has been debated and discussed, and people have put forth, the archaeologists, the importance of this material, that is seals. Among all the animal engravings, unicorn and the humped bull and composite animal forms occupy special place. That you all know. Humped bull, what we call it as Brahmani, bull is so important and iconic to Indus civilization. So Indus people held the animals in great reverence even today. We keep some of the animals, for example cow, with great sacred reverence. So regional diversity is noticed and inland and overseas trade significant. It's not just producing and keeping for themselves, they also sent outside, and production center of artifacts. All this you can see the production center when we visited Lothal and documented, we saw that how the bead production center has been identified and how it was traded. So now we come to the art. I have taken only three parts of it. One is ceramic art, glyptic art and sculpture. Only three. I didn't go for jewelry and bead making. That is a separate thing, which requires a lot of time to talk about. So the Indus Valley civilization is known for the production of various types of earthen vessels and their decoration by painting or incised designs. So you find, I'll just go with the slides, and I think maybe in another 15 minutes, Dr. Nandita? Yeah. So we can view the slides and then come to the conclusion. So here you will see that Kalibangan, the early Harappan designs on pottery by B.B. Lal in his book has given all this. See the patterns and the designs and the kind of flexibility of creating the animal figures, and also the sophistication of putting those lines and making them stronger somewhere lighter. All such things have been tried by the artists, and those flowers are very clear, stylized flowers you find on the pottery. And here is one Harappa painted jar. You can see that how many lines of different this. When I was watching this, I felt that this system they followed on the Adhisthana of the temple. When you see the Adhisthana of the temple, the rows, creating different rows, some are animal, some are creeper, some are forms, and then legends, stories. So that neck of that part suggests, it came to my mind, this is where Adhisthana, you can see the Indian Adhisthana. So that means to say, those designs are very, very purposefully put, and it's not crowded. When you see that, it doesn't look crowded. It looks natural and artistic too. So this is one of the very good example to understand the handling of the space on the pottery. And the 4 petal or 4 leaves that you see in the major part of the pot occupied, that design is very favorite to Harappans. So they used to paint this particular thing. So now this is a narrative painting. Lothal narrative painting on S profile jar, that side. This one. This is jar, S profile jar, and this is the narrative. And Dr. Rao used to be very, very happy explaining this. The narrative, as though he felt it's a new narrative that he is telling us, storytelling. So he says that storytelling is so interestingly brought out here, and the cunning fox and foolish crow. You all know this story from childhood. Every one of us have listened to this story. So you can see the crows are sitting there, and the fox is picking up the food. And look at the kejri tree, as Dr. Nandita was mentioning. So beautifully brought the kejri tree. Even today, if you ask some child to draw or paint, he would use this tree. So comfortable to draw. And this side, this is another narrative which mentions a fable of thirsty deer and crow. A deer is here, a crow is here, beautifully treated, very clear form to recognize it as deer. And there is a pot putting the conker, that is the stone, inside, and you all know the story, what happens to deer and what happens to crow. So this is from Lothal. So Lothal had such narrative, pottery, very interestingly brought out. Now another example of Lothal S profile jar. Entire surface is covered with designs of plants, peacocks, people leaves, sun motifs, stylized leaf pattern, and so on. So entire thing is treated with this concept. So whenever they created a pottery, they thought in their mind what to create on that if they want to make it as a interesting ceramic, art. So that is very interesting. So this is again just to give you that concept of the deer, how beautifully formed. Look at the form, the natural, sophisticated form. It's not crude. It's very sophisticated, and the crow, the characters features of the crow is very well brought out there, and the story repeat there on the jar. And there are Lothal potsherds, lots and lots of potsherds are there in Lothal, and our Kumaran is here who had worked on Lothal and Dholavira and all that. And here you see the horizontal wavy lines and vertical wavy lines, and it has not disappeared today. Even today, if you go to Gujarat during Garbha, festival, they keep the pots, and those pots are treated with the horizontal lines. Some of them are the vertical lines. Everywhere, maybe even in Tamil Nadu you find this during the Sankranti. During that festival, you find the pots are painted this way. First they put the line and then color lines are used. Now these are from National Museum, which Dr. Sharma has placed all of them in the showcase. So you can't forget Dr. Sharma when you enter the Harappan gallery. So much of efforts he has taken, and we all respect him. So here you see that the storage jar from Chavandaro, the 4-leaf pattern, I said the first one is very, very favorite design for the these Indus artists, whether it is Harappa or Lothal or Chavandaro, they will have this particular design, and it's a black design over red. How beautifully color combination also goes. And then you have Harappa, from Harappa, a fine terracotta dish on stand, that is the pot that you find, a pottery, and perforated jars. These are very unique to Indus civilization. Still, we are not able to understand why these perforated jars were created. There are some, interpretations are there. Some people say that it is for filtering things. They keep in a big pot, and this you keep in the center. So when you put something, it filters. Maybe it sieves, function of the sieve. Some people say that it must be like, storage of some kind of material which requires air. So it can be a storage jar. To my understanding, it also can be treated as a safe place to keep the beads in a sachet, muslin sachet and then put inside. Jewels put inside. But you have to have a sachet. If you put just directly, it will go out. So maybe that was a storing jar for such precious things. Maybe. So now we come to glyptic art, that is what is the seals. The most controversial aspects of Indus civilization is the seal. So the most distinctive object of Indus civilization is the seal. The total number of seals and seal impressions found in Indus sites exceed 3,200. Until Lothal was excavated, it was thought that the seals were used as amulets because they have perforated button at the back. Among as many as 91 terracotta ceilings found at Lothal, 71 are from warehouse channels. They were baked and rather accidentally, as they are found along with ash, burnt clay, lamps on the mud, plastered reed roof of the warehouse. It is only at Lothal that they are found in the production centers. All these are found in the production centers. So that is very important. So ceilings found in Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, Kalibangan, Dholavira, Ropar are mostly unbaked. They are samples of seal impressions taken on wet clay lumps held in palm. It is fairly clear that in Lothal, very few clay ceilings were intentionally baked. They are clay labels of packages on which the seals were pressed to prevent pilferage and to authenticate the source of the cargo. This is the opinion of Dr. S.R. Rao. So in many cases, it is now obvious that the main purpose of producing seal was commercial. It must, however, be admitted that the mythical animal and other motives suggest a religious context. Ever since the Indus seals were found, scholars have been working hard to decipher the enigmatic inscriptions on them, written in an unknown script and unknown language. So this is the responsibility of the present researchers, because we recently lost Bibi Lal, who was continuously working on deciphering. Dr. Rao, till his last day, he was trying to decipher this script. So we don't know who is taking it further. Even N.S. Rajaram, who was trying to understand these things, is no more. These three persons were continuously working on the script, as I know, but it is the responsibility now lies on the people who are in the field. So now just I gave you a comparison of Pashupati seal from Mohenjo-daro, which we always say that there are all kinds of animals around this form who is seated in the yogic posture. And in Ellora, if you go there, you find Mahadeva, and around that you have so many animals. So Pashupati is repeated here, or the source or continuity of this kind of imagery in Indian art possibility. So these are some of the interesting seals. Most of you are aware of it. So Mohenjo-daro, you have the tiger seal, number of them, and in that seal, one of the seal, a man, or he may be treated as God, who is directing the animal with something, and the animal is looking at him for some kind of direction. And in the other Harappa seal of a bull, it's a short a horned bull and humpless. It doesn't have hump and it is feeding. So like this, the concern of the people, it's not only putting the animal but feed also. So that kind of, internal or compassionate things we find, many things to understand from the seals. This is the Mohenjo-daro Brahmani bull, beautifully, artistically and crafted with long horns, robust structure. When you see that, you will very clearly understand the robust structure, and carved dewlap so much, it's reaching almost the earth, and muscular details are the major features of this Brahmani bull. You also have Harappa elephant seal engraved with sharp features. So they were very clear how to present an elephant also. And then here is very interesting one from Mohenjo-daro, a seal with human figure and standing under the arch of flame. Later we see Nataraja in the arch of flame. But you see here indication of those concepts. May not be imagery, but the concepts must have really existed. These are some of the seals depicting Brahmani bull. So many seals are found of the Brahmani bulls. Each one I don't want to explain. You can just to see the imagery of the bulls. So in National Museum you find all these are displayed. Harappa and Kalibangan. You find mainly the rhinoceros seals which are, and also swastik and other different forms of seals are found there. So it is displayed in National Museum. Now we come to the sculpture part, the last part. Despite the geographical distances, I'm sorry. Can you put some fan or something here? Backside fan. Sweating a lot. So I'm coming to the almost end of some of the slides. So art of sculpture. India has an unbroken sculptural heritage going back to the period of Indus civilization, which is considered to be the proto-historic phase of Indian history. The sculptural forms which blossomed there are defined to be the primary sources for studying the major streams of Indian art history. It is true that the artists of Indus Valley did not produce the imposing imagery as in the case of Egyptian monumental sculptures or the bas-reliefs of Sumerian civilization, but the numerous three-dimensional forms found in many excavated sites of Indus civilization display an advanced technique in the portrayal of animals in profile, which anticipates the naturalism of later Indian art. So this is the classic example of bronze image of dancing girl. Still we are contemplating whether it is a dancing girl or a woman just standing like this. Because most of the time women take this position. So even now I can easily take this position. It's so natural to women to stand like this. But it can also be a dance movement. So you can see a dancer who is going in that movement. So when they start the dance, they start with this movement. So is it so? I just brought the comparison, but what is interesting is the metallurgy, the advancement, the skill of metallurgy. They have achieved that skill in Indus Valley to create this image. It's not a huge image, it is just 6 inches. 6 inches tiny figure with all details. And this kind of, the jewelry in the hand or the wrist, you find in the 12th century Kalyan Chalukya images. You have from whole wrist, complete this part of the hand is occupied with so much of jewelry. So continuity is what is interesting. So it is visibly impressive and surpasses the heavily ornate terracotta figurines in plasticity and sensuousness. When you see the terracotta figurines, you see they are heavily ornamented. And here there is no ornamentation, but the form is so beautifully, aesthetically treated. And this is the famous priest king, and it is made of stone. Again a small one, not a big one. This is known as masterpiece. Whenever you see, even in our invitation, you have this priest. So these are some of the classic examples for Indus art. And the second one, you are maybe, some of you might not have seen this. It is human head stone from Mohenjo-daro. You can see the plasticity of, how the face is handled, the modeling, bringing down the expression on the face. So it is smiling and very expressive compared to the priest. And Dr. Nandita was referring to the jewel that he is wearing. So when I was working on my book on jewelry, it's a huge volume. There, I started working from Rigvedic. Do we have any jewelry references in Rigvedic? So there we find a jewel known as Rukma. Rukma is placed on the forehead, and it can be used by men and women. And later we see that all women in Marwar region, they must have this. In their marriage they are given, and whole life they have to wear this Rukma on their head. Or they call it as tika today. It's a jewel piece. So this is a mask. Even they have not left the theme like mask. There is a very good book on mask produced by IGNCA Delhi. I think it is by Keshav Malik. Very good book. In that, so many, all over India and even other parts of the world he has taken, but he has to start from this mask. It's the earliest one. And very beautifully, the applique work, you can see the eyes and the lip expression, terracotta. It can be handled so well. And the other one is the contemporary mask, which I have in my entrance. It's a human head of terracotta made of single mold, as it was single mold in Indus also, and it is in my collection. So you can see the kind of expression can be created in terracotta. That is where mask is also important study. Now these are some of the, again, stone small pieces having plasticity, the movement, the male figure, indicating the sockets for fixing the hands and the head. There is sockets, you can see there. That's from Indus Valley. And the other one, what you see, is from the Patna Museum. Yes, and Patna, it's in collected in Patna Museum. So you can see the comparison of still existing, the art continues. And the second one, what you are seeing, a crossed leg movement. As soon as you look at that, you think of Nataraja. Many people think that, oh, Indus Valley people knew Nataraja also, claiming. We are not sure, unless there is something available for us to say that yes. But you can see the parallel thinking and parallel action can happen. So here you see Nataraja from Sringeri and a stone, that is stone, I just wanted to bring only stone, and then Nataraja, now it is not Nataraja, it's a human figure of a small tiny figure from Indus Valley. So now this is very interesting, all of you must have come across with Mohenjo-daro, a masterpiece, it is known as a masterpiece goddess, that is mother goddess, identified as mother goddess. So still, if someone has to believe or not believe, left to them, but mother goddess culture is as ancient as we live in our country and continues even today. So the other one, what you have here, Didarganj Yakshi, I have just brought out, and to show you the girdles, treatment of girdles, in the Indus girdles are so heavily shown there, the last one on the top, and the girdles which have been artistically brought in the times of Mauryan. So it's a continuity. You can see the girdles, treatment of the girdles as jewels. And this is from Bulandi Bagh, Patna. These are all dancing girls, terracotta figurines. They are so beautifully expressive. You can see their movement, their jewelry, their headdress. What is the source for them? Maybe the continuity from Indus Valley civilization. Definitely it is a continuity. So from Patna Museum. This is another dancing girl smiling and elaborate headdress, and very clearly, the bosom and the today, they say the parallels, she had the parallels there. So beautifully brought out, it is belonging to very early age. Now there are terracotta figurines engaged in various activities. The first one you see that probably she is kneading the dough, for roti or something. And the second one is feeding the child. And the third one is wondering what happened, her expression. And the fourth one is feeding the child reclining without jewels or anything. So humanistic. So they are engaged in various, this is only 4 objects I have chosen, but there are so many in National Museum showing various activities in which women are engaged. See, immediately you can connect, that is what I am telling you. The gap is so many millenniums, but you can immediately connect because these activities still continue in India even today. And this is very interesting. Terracotta male figures in yogic postures. So again, Rao was so excited to explain this. Says yogic postures, yogasanas are there. So can we connect it to the Surya Namaskar? So there are totally about 10 figures. They are all meticulously handmade and they are all in the collection of National Museum. This is very interesting, yogic posture and yogasanas. And now coming to animals, few are there, slides. So Mohenjo-daro humpless bull, they also existed, not only just Brahmani, there are others, species of bulls existed in Harappan area, and they are realistically and artistically manifested with neck ornaments. Look at the neck, beautifully decorated. Even today if you go to villages, the ox in the festival, Sankranti, during Sankranti, they decorate with all horns, paint, everything. And that continues in the festivals even today. And these are 2 monkeys from Mohenjo-daro, one from Harappa. A seated monkey in fanes, which is very small, probably used as amulet. The purpose of that may be amulet, but you can see the finely modeling and the eye socket is so deep, very clear. And the other one in Harappa, it's a realistic monkey in action. It's in action, and that is again in National Museum. Dogs. Dogs were favorite for Indus people and Indus artists also. So you find Mohenjo-daro dog, terracotta, raised tail, and try to bark. So it is action. It shows the alertness of a dog, expressive ability of Indus artist. See, many times I ask my visual art students, how do you show the distinction between a dead person, a sleeping one? Explain me. It is so difficult. If you put a reclining figure, it looks like sleeping. But as a dead, what are the other things? So you find the great Italian artists have shown the dead when the mother holds the Christ. That's the best example to show the dead. In Indian art also we find this kind of Bhishma on the arrows. He is still alive, almost dead. So this kind of imagery, very difficult for an artist, but they should be really skillful. So that is what reminded me when we see this dog, alert dog. And the second one, what you see is a terracotta dog. It's a playing dog. We see that whenever you enter home, the dogs play with you. So that artist has captured some of the movements of playing dog, and he has expressed here. And another dog from Mohenjo-daro is fine modeling and having double belt. That means to say it must be a domesticated dog. So all such interesting things we find here. And Daimabad rhinoceros, a bronze and wheeled. You can see all features of rhinoceros there, very typically brought. And in Lothal, only the neck, the face you find. And this is rhinoceros head, terracotta, short horn. But when you observe it closely, there is a stretched tongue. That is again a difficult thing for an artist to show. It is a stretched thing, carefully modeled and realistic. And this is a very interesting one, a ram seated and couched beautifully. See, the rams usually will not be like alert or aggressive always. They will be sitting, whenever they sit, couched. So artist has brought that in a realistic mood. There is a controversy whether Harappans or Indus Valley civilization people were aware of horses. Quite a long time the controversy went on. Then finally we have the horses also. That means to say horses existed at that time. So Mohenjo-daro horse, you see that terracotta, a high degree of sophistication. When you see that, you feel that what a kind of sophistication, an art piece it is. Whether they used it as art piece or to show an example as a horse. And the other one what you see is Lothal horse, terracotta, stumpy tail, very short tail but stumpy, and it separated legs. Legs are very clearly separated. And the top one is again from Lothal. It's a head of a bear, beautifully brought out, realistic in feature, and look at the long snout of the bear. So Lothal, you see the bird terracotta, an aesthetically designed model, and in Mohenjo-daro also you find the wheeled, maybe it is toy, and Chaundaro you find a peacock, very interestingly stretched, feathers you find a peacock. And this is one from Daimabad, all of you know that, the man riding a chariot, and Harappa, a toy cart. So beautifully handled, modeled, very fine terracotta they have taken, the material, form, function, maybe a toy cart. And this is Dholavira, a stone polished pillar base, 2600 BCE, which is in National Museum, given by ASI to National Museum. And you all know Dholavira has become the World Heritage, 40th World UNESCO World Heritage Site. 39 was Ramappa Temple, Telangana. 40 was Dholavira. So we stop at 40. We should have much more to our country as UNESCO Heritage Site. So we wish that all of us work hard, see that we get that tag to most of our heritage sites. Coming to the last, this is Kashmir and Jammu. I don't know, sir, whether today we get carnelian beads in Kashmir. I am not aware of it. It's not available. We have to check when I'll request Dr. Nandita, when you go next month, find out whether carnelian beads are available in Kashmir. Yeah. But this is given as, Burzone. It's displayed in National Museum. And carnelian beads, the Indus people were experts in that. And it was widely used. And it was traded. So many, references we get the trading of carnelian beads. And they are very, very sophisticated. Look at the color, sheen. So beautifully modeled, the beads. And this is one Harappa teardrop shaped carnelian pendant. Look at the size and the color, so beautifully designed into lovely neck ornament. Who would not like to have such a neck ornament? Such beautifully formed. So the bead culture continues even today. In so much of, any material you can prepare beads. So the one which I am wearing here, people ask whether it is ruby. I can't wear such ruby neck piece. One is, it's very heavy and very expensive. I cannot afford it. But this is from Kedarnath. When I traveled to Kedarnath, from some resin of the tree, they have made this bead, very light and beautiful color, and it keeps you cool. So it has medicinal value also. So I mean to say, the Indus Valley bead making is so widespread that art, skill, and even today we all wear Indus Valley continuity. It is not dead and gone. It is a continuous civilization, as Professor Tanwar has just talked about it. Thank you. I thank Dr. Nandita for giving me this opportunity, and all of you for listening for a little longer. I think I have taken. Sorry.